So hello, everyone. I am Annabelle Gonzalez, Deputy Director General at the WTO. And thank you very much for joining us today to discuss how trade can accelerate the economic empowerment of women around the world. Promoting women economic empowerment is firmly on the international agenda, and rightly so. Women's empowerment and gender equality are an urgent priority for moral reasons, but certainly also for economic reasons. That's also what the data tells us. Increasing the participation of women in the labor market to the same level as men's could raise the GDP of some countries by up to 34%, according to the IMF. Against such a backdrop, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development sets a clear goal to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls by 2030. To this end, the agenda rightly calls on the need to act on gender equality across multiple areas, from education to health to politics to the economy. We all have a role to play to turn women's economic empowerment and gender equality into reality, and that includes us here at the WTO. Today, we have the opportunity to take stock of the role of women in global trade, and to address some of the barriers that keep them from sharing fully in the gains from the global trading system. Over the last few years, we have seen WTO members put more focus on this and other issues at the intersection of trade and gender. The 2017 Buenos Aires Declaration was a decisive step, putting trade and gender firmly on the WTO agenda. The declaration aims to promote women's economic empowerment and tackle barriers that hamper their participation in global trade. To achieve this, it provides a platform to better understand the links between trade and women's empowerment. The creation of an informal working group on trade and gender in September 2020 by 127 co-sponsors of the Buenos Aires Declaration was another key milestone. Here, let me recognize the leadership of the working group's three co-chairs, Ambassador Molokome from Botswana, Ambassador Benedetti from El Salvador, and Ambassador Aspelund from Iceland. Keep up the excellent work. Ahead of the WTO's ministerial conference in December, the participants in the informal working group are working towards an outcome on women and trade. And as part of that, they are considering a set of key recommendations to guide the group's future work. Collaboration with stakeholders has been a hallmark of the WTO works on trade and gender since the very beginning. That includes engagement with women entrepreneurs who have played a key role in bringing our discussions on trade and gender at the WTO to life. It is important to deepen this discussion, in my view, especially as the world continues to battle the pandemic and its economic fallout. The COVID-19 recession has hit women workers and entrepreneurs particularly hard. And that's because the sectors in which women are economically active include some of the most affected by lockdown and distancing measures. Textiles, apparel, footwear, tourism, and business travel services are cases in point. And it's also because female entrepreneurs tend to own or manage small businesses, which have also faced greater constraints in terms of access to finance, for example. Today's event provides another valuable opportunity to explore these issues and the role of trade in helping to solve them. I understand that the three co-chairs of the informal working group intend to compile the results of today's discussions into recommendations that they will then submit for consideration of the informal working group. And that, I think, is an excellent idea. To discuss the role of women in global trade and the barriers that they face in this area, I am delighted to be joined by a panel of four very distinguished panelists from across business and government. They are Mercy Chiwetu, CEO of Queen of Chitenge Fashion, Lisa Kingo, independent board member of Sanofi, Mariam Shakila, CEO, SIMD Group of Companies, and Rosa Erlingsdottir, Senior Advisor at the Icelandic Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you all for being here with us, Mercy, Lisa, Mariam, and Rosa. I also see that we have a large audience from across the world, and thank you very much for joining us. Please do post your questions online, and we will respond towards the end of the session. And with this, let's get started. I want to kick off by asking our distinguished panelists to share their perspective on two questions. First, what opportunities does the global market bring to women's economic empowerment and entrepreneurship? And second, what is the role of women's entrepreneurs in helping countries build back better and greener from the pandemic? So let me maybe start with Rosa and ask you your views on this topic. Rosa, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Annabelle. It's an honor for me to join you in this panel. And maybe I should begin by saying that I am no expert in trade, but I've been working on gender equality for the last 20 years. And I think that I can say, you know, in the positive spirit, that while the pandemic has had a regressive effect on gender equality, it has also unveiled the importance for all states to increase their investment in social security infrastructures and gender equality. Because we know from several research that what is good for gender equality is also good for the economy, trade, and businesses. And I think that this is a very important point, which also is confirmed by the experience from recent crises that we have gone through, like the economic breakdown in 2008. And we do know from that crisis that the fastest improving countries and economies were those who had already experienced strong progress towards gender equality, parity in labor, in the economy. And this, for example, was the case in the Nordic countries and in Iceland. And there are several points that we can build on now from our experience in 2008, 2009, and that is that we need to integrate gender while the crises are still ongoing and not after the crisis. So, and you know, a newly published McKinsey report shows that overall women's jobs are 1.8 times more vulnerable to the COVID crisis than men's jobs. And while women only make up 39% of the global employment, they account for 54% of overall job losses. And too often those women do not receive any assistance from their society to bridge this period of unemployment. And I think that these numbers do reflect, you know, the remaining inequalities and the occupational segregation in labor and the economy. But the good news is that it is possible to meet those challenges, and we do need to develop tools to speed up the progress towards more gender equality. And to answer the latter part of your question, I think it's very appropriate to mention a newly published research initiated by the Nordic Council of Ministers, which is on the women in the energy sector. Because we know from research in other fields of the economy that gender equality increases corporate performances. And this newly published research from August this year looks at the link between the lack of gender equality in leadership position and women among entrepreneurs in the energy field And on the other hand, the lack of ambitious commitment of companies and administration in their sector to align with strategies to ambitious climate commitments. And that crisis is most severe than the COVID one. And I think the transition to sustainable energy is, like I said, a very critical one, but there is a risk that carrying on in traditional ways, that we will miss the opportunity to add other perspectives that can stimulate to innovation and progression. And I think there we should learn to engage all the available brain power and not miss out the opportunities like we have done in, for example, economic and trade, by reacting reversely and not from the beginning. So I leave it by there from now on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rosa, for those insights. Let me now turn to Macy. You run a successful fashion company. So what do you have to tell us on these two questions, please?
First and foremost, I would say, I think operating in the garments and textile sector during the COVID pandemic, we've really been hit hard. I think I can give an example of myself. Being in a country that really depends on imports, as we cannot manufacture most of the things that we use to produce our complete made garments. So we depend on a fabric that comes from outside my country, which is Zambia. And with all these restrictions and lockdowns, you know, things have really been taking long to come into my country. And this has also slowed down actually most of my sales in exports. I haven't really been able to deal a lot in exports like I used to do before. So I can say we've really been hit hard on the export part. I can't really participate in any international trade. I can't attend any expos. You know, there are all those restrictions that are going on. And then apart from that, I think the COVID pandemic has also brought in a lot of opportunities for me as a person who's in the fashion industry. So I sat down and had to look at what is it that I can do with the things that I have locally in my country, the things that I can access locally within my continent before I even go to outside Africa. So I had to sit down and rechange my production. So instead of concentrating more on the fashion clothing, now I had to go into production of things like PPE, you know, things of workwear. And I think this has really also helped me to, again, increase on my production capacity, as well as also improve on my quality. So I can say it has been a learning lesson on most businesses. I can give an example of many women businesses that have actually closed because of the COVID pandemic. Not that they wanted to close, but because of what has happened. So now it's sitting back as a business and looking at the environments that you are operating in. What is it that you can offer that is relevant to what is happening? I think being an entrepreneur is about providing solutions and also looking at what you can do beyond what is happening. So I had to sit back and redo my marketing strategy. I think this has helped me to survive as a business, and I can attest to it that I've grown just locally even before I can continue with my international trade. So I can say the role of international trade in women organization is something that helps you increase your production, not just production, but also increase your sales. I can say before the COVID pandemic, I had ongoing contracts with certain certain boutiques. So I would ship out garments after 3 months, you know. So this is something that has been cut off because of that. But again, not only do you increase your sales, you also get to learn about different tariffs that's applied in different countries. You get to learn about the standards that certain countries have. What is it that you need to do for you to meet the requirements of the country that you want to export your products in? So all those things are things that have also helped me, I think, to grow to the stage where I am today, because I have engaged in international trade. You know, I have traveled different places, attended different fashion shows, as well as expos. So these are things that have helped me to learn more on how I can grow my business and expand it just beyond Africa, but to the world as well. And then I can say that being a woman entrepreneur is really a big challenge. One, because everybody looks at you as a woman, as a mother, you know, so you really don't get that support that you need to get compared to a female child. You know, a male child would come up with a business and say, I want to do this. And the whole family will give that person the whole support. Here is me, a girl child, who says, all right, I've got this business plan that I want to do. The reaction or the support is not as much as compared to somebody who is male. So I think these are barriers, again, that we're trying to fight as women in business as well as international trade. I can say that I have gotten support from my family, and I've got a great family that has given me support. I think this has also helped me to look at my business differently as well and step out there with my head high up, because I know that the support that I get from my family and my government as well has been quite good. And then not only that, I have been able to participate in different programs that have been brought about. I can give an example of She Trade. I think I can testify as being one of the female entrepreneurs in my country that has really benefited from that. My business started in 2018, and from attending these networkings and sections and sessions, my business is a formal business. If I have an opportunity for international trade, I'm all good and I can do it. But I cannot give this to many of the female businesses that are in my country, I think, and in any other countries. Most of the times you find that these businesses are not formal businesses. You find that they're not registered. So even when there are opportunities for somebody to enter into international trade, they are not ready because of all those things. So I think this has been my experience and the opportunities and challenges that I've learned to overcome.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Very interesting points of view and on adjusting to changing market conditions. On the point that with trade, increased trade comes increased know-how, but also on the challenges sometimes that cultural norms presents for taking full advantage of these opportunities. Let me now turn it over to Lisa to hear from you on our two questions, please.
Thank you so much, Annabelle, and thanks for the invitation to join this distinguished panel. I mean, it's a great pleasure, and I think it's extremely timely to discuss the connection between international trade and the role of women. And first of all, I completely agree with the statements that have been made. Also that in order to make the Sustainable Development Goals a reality, which is being put under a lot of pressure these days, there's no other way than engaging women and striving to create gender equality across the world. I think it could really be the one focus that could, how should I say, solve the Gordic knot of making the goals a reality. So it's actually a very important both political, societal, and business parameter that we are discussing here. So I have worked many years as a business executive in corporate businesses. I led the UN Global Compact at the UN for the last 5 years. And today I work as a professional independent board director. And I would like to address three perspectives, Annabelle, in the questions that you raised. So where should we focus to really invite women to participate much more in international trade? I think one very important dimension is that we need many more women on corporate boards. Women have different perspectives to contribute with. I have the pleasure of sitting on 3 different international boards. I'm not the only woman. These companies are definitely realizing and requesting the special competences that women can bring into a board level in setting the strategic direction of a company. As we all know, there's still a very long way to go until we will have gender equality at the board levels of corporations across the world. But I think we should be happy and celebrate the countries where things are actually moving in the right direction. And one such example would be Norway. Unfortunately, in my own country, Denmark, according to the last study from the World Economic Forum, we have dropped down to being number 29 in the list of companies that are actually having women on corporate boards. So I think there's a good challenge for everyone here. Secondly, I think it's so important to have women as CEOs of organizations across the world. And it was a pleasure to listen to Mercy with your story and your professionalism. I think you illustrated very clearly why we need more women to run businesses across the world. And as Rosa was also mentioning, I mean, we already know from many studies, McKinsey and others, that when you have women on executive management and in boards of companies, they are performing better financially. So there's actually no, how should I say, reasons not to hurry up and make sure that more women go on the executive levels. Finally, I think the issue of women entrepreneurs is really an important one. And unfortunately, we have seen during COVID how difficult the conditions have been for all entrepreneurs, but I think particularly for women entrepreneurs, due to the fact that they are often in sectors that have been particularly hit by COVID, such as hospitality, care, and so on. I think we need to speed up the support that women get in terms of starting their own businesses, because we can actually see from various studies, such as BNP Paribas, that has looked at how women are actually driving and running their own businesses when they get the opportunity. And linking back to the global goals, we can see that female entrepreneurs, actually 54% of them, say that after making a financial profit, their second priority is the whole energy transformation that Rosa was referring to, and other issues relating to the Sustainable Development Goals, which is 41% for male entrepreneurs. So I think there's a great drive to support women that want to run their own business. Unfortunately, we also know that only 2.8% of the global venture capital is invested into female entrepreneurs and their business. This number was in 2019, and unfortunately, it has dropped down to 2.3% in 2020. So I think there's a huge challenge for the entire financial sector, and also, of course, for organizations like the WTO to put this issue on the agenda, that we need much more venture capital invested in businesses run by women. It's also clear that female entrepreneurs are actually very successful once they get the opportunity to build and run their own business. So I think if we are in a positive mood today, maybe it is that it's such an obvious idea to make sure to support women in participating on equal footing in all aspects of business, and that the whole area of entrepreneurship is such a great opportunity for women in every country across the world. And Annabelle, I will close here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lisa, for a very compelling call for increased women participation in boards, as CEOs, and as entrepreneurs. And last but not least, let me come to Mariam to hear your views as well, please.
Thank you, Annabelle. Thanks for this opportunity. I do not want to repeat everything that has been said, which of course I wholeheartedly agree with my colleagues here on panelists. But to understand the question that you asked, from my perspective, what opportunities does the global market bring to women's economic empowerment, was your question. For me, I think it also created many opportunities, especially the opportunity for digitization that has come up with, giving us the opportunity even here, like right now, through these Zoom meetings and then getting connected and all that. I think this is one huge opportunity that came that actually helped us overcome a lot of our challenges. Also helped us, it also brought an opportunity to lower the barriers that we normally, as women entrepreneurs, we face at home and internationally. And then created an opportunity for the businesses to connect to international value chains, and then helping bolster growth and inclusion. And I think that was also one of the opportunities that came up with it. And as you all would agree, that the past 2 decades have seen the birth of an unprecedented number of new markets and technologies, such as cloud services, warehouse robotics, digital marketing, and next generation wireless networks and more. First and foremost, I feel that the global market has created the opportunity to lower the barriers faced by women and assisting more business women to connect to international value chains. But also, again, I must highlight that, the ground reality is that despite the opportunities that has emerged through digitization and then through other means, women are not only less connected, but benefit less from digital literacy and skill training. And digital space seems to be in general elusive to females. And then data on computer usage clearly shows that women have gaps in basic digital skills as well. And then these skills barriers reinforce the obstacles to startup financing and networks. Therefore, technological revolution that is affecting the way in which we work, learn, teach, and live together has untapped potential for women, I would say, and which would enhance global trade. And the second part of your question was, what is the role of women entrepreneurs in helping countries build back better and greener from the pandemic? Well, a huge part of this digital phenomenon that I talked about is the fact that women are becoming increasingly important in the global marketplace, not just as workers, but also as consumers, entrepreneurs, managers, and investors. And indeed, women are now considered the most powerful engine of global growth. So in fact, there is growing global consensus on women's economic empowerment as a force multiplier for good governance, economic growth, poverty eradication, ending hunger, and achieving food security and nutrition, achieving sustainable consumption and production patterns, and environmental sustainability, and achieving the SDG achievement overall, And then also research that has recently been done indicates that if women and men stood on an identical footing in terms of participation in the economy through paid work or entrepreneurship, the world could see as much as $28 trillion in global growth by 2025. So imagine that it would be the GDP of US and China put together. As reported widely in the popular press, women have contributed more to global GDP growth than have either the new technology or the new giants, China and India. So I think I would close over at that point. Thank you. I can't hear you, Annabelle. Can't hear you.
All right, I'm sorry. So thank you very much for great comments on women connecting to global value chains, among other things. So I want to pose a quick question to each one of you and a quick answer, because I also want to bring at least one question from our audience. So maybe I'm going to start with you, Mariam. So basically, I would like to ask you, what advice would you give to other women entrepreneurs thinking about selling their products in foreign markets? Maybe 1 minute, 1 minute and a half answer, please.
Well, again, I think I would go for the technological to empower women technologically. So technological revolution is affecting the way we do business. But then there are a lot of gaps. And according to the limited research available, due to many factors, including lack of digital entrepreneurship, role models, and lack of digital skills. So I think digitization, that women should be empowered for that. And women should learn, women should take the opportunity and then become more skilled in those areas and upskill them, because this would give them the opportunity for networking and connecting, and then taking advantage of the global value chain as well. So I think that is what I would say.
So thank you very much, Mercy. Let me go over to you and ask you, what action is needed from governments to help women overcome some of the obstacles that you mentioned in your initial participation?
I think I would say what governments need to do is to really learn and find out exactly how they can come in and help these women. I think one of the biggest challenges that we face as women entrepreneurs is actually access to finance for setting up. You find that most of the women are really small. They need to grow, but they don't have access to that financing. So I need, I can say most governments really need to really increase the access. And not only also access to finance, I think we still need to do more of capacity building on how these women can make their business stable instead of just operating for a few years and they go down. So I can say there is need for capacity building and skills training as well. I think like Mariam said, I think that is also more that is needed to be done in terms of digitalization. Like you can see with the COVID pandemic, I think it has really made us realize that technology is actually one of the most important things that businesses really need to invest in. So women entrepreneurs really need to invest in digitalization and technology. We're talking of websites. We really need to improve that and have an access on online markets. You know, we can sell our products online and create that online best that we need of our clients. I think that I can say.
All right, thank you very much for those highlights, Mercy. Lisa, let me go to you and ask you, what can governments do to support women in entrepreneurship and trade?
I think they can do a lot of things. Clearly, there's a great need for supporting the financing, as we just heard. So I think that's one area for the entrepreneurs. I think governments can also do a lot to encourage that women are invited to join the board of directors. And I think governments can certainly also encourage to have a certain number of companies that are led by female CEOs. So I think there's a sort of positive spiral on this entire issue between governments and businesses in specific countries. And I would look for companies that have signed up to the UN Global Compact and also the women empowerment principles, because they understand that what we are discussing now is part of their future business success and their license to operate in society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lise. Rosa, we know that Iceland is a pioneer on trade and gender, and your country has been supporting the participation of women in international trade. What can you tell us about what has worked and what has not worked in this area?
I'm sorry, you always forget to mute and unmute yourself. No matter how long this crisis or lasting pandemic. But thank you for this question. I mean, I would say that the Icelandic government leadership in this field is a result of a foreign policy emphasizing to achieve transformative change in gender equality and fully implement the Agenda 2030, both internationally and nationally. And I mean, Iceland is a small state, but this is certainly a field that we can have influence in. And we do have good policies. We have the experience of a very high labor market participation of women. And what we want to do is to support the gender empowerment through our trade policy by integrating those gender perspectives, by pointing out to our experience and best practices in this field. And maybe if I was to summarize this in one sentence, you would say that progress in gender equality does not happen on its own accord. You need to take action. And we have experienced that there is a need for many measures, you know, both legislative measures from the government side, but also soft measures. Here in Iceland, we have had a very successful fund since 1991, where women-owned businesses and entrepreneurs can have a financial support to start their businesses. And we also know that we need measures to increase the number of women in boards of companies. And we did follow the Norwegian example and legislated with a gender quota. And that law took effect in 2013. And the number of women immediately had, you know, increased. But this alone isn't enough, because you need to affect the culture as well. And that you can do with many different soft measures. But one of the most important things here has been the connection between women in businesses. We have a very powerful association of women, Icelandic women in businesses and on corporate boards. Every year they choose the women of the year, the most successful businesses. They are in NGOs, which we cooperate with from the government side. We seek advices, we have a cooperation agreement with them. And then governments can also stimulate change by being an active voice, by pointing out the importance of various measures, like on the gender pay gap, on increasing the diversity in hiring, in showcasing role models, etc. So the list can be very long. Yes, I think I leave it by there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rosa. Very interesting to hear the different the experience that Iceland has had. And one point that I thought was particularly relevant that you mentioned is this association of women entrepreneurs, traders, owners coming together and learning from their experiences, and goes to the point as well to of public-private collaboration in supporting women in international trade, which is another important aspect. So we have several questions in our audience, and let me take one of it and pose it to all of you. It says from Andreas Freitag, how can societies where women still are suppressed be convinced to enhance the chances of women to be entrepreneurial? The Economist a couple of weeks ago painted a gloomy picture of a number of countries. So let me pose this question openly and see who would like to make a reference to it.
Can I
Yes, please,
say
Mariam.
something? Annabelle, yes. Well, prevailing legal and cultural restrictions towards female autonomy in many emerging and developing economies, which inhibit or prevent women from accessing the opportunities, need to be done. It's a policy decision that needs to be taken. And then I think international communities, international organizations like the UN, WTO, and places like this should actually put pressure on getting this facilitated. Now, the other one that I wanted to say is, men and women in these different societies are pressured by a lot of socially prescribed rules and socially and then self-inflicted rules as well, so I think women need to be women basically need to be empowered and to change the mindset that they have, which impedes business growth or have different mindset constraints such as risk aversion and actually catch up on the soft skills that they have. Often what is happening is we as women and we as men, we have different skills. There are some skills that are men are quite strong at. There are some skills that women are stronger at. But then this is always seen as, it's a feminine values or masculine values. But then what people don't realize is, a combination of these feminine skills and then masculine skills together would actually bring about a good and efficient outcome. And then so to truly empower women, policymakers, educators need to address these constraints and then work along that way. And then I think there has to be, like a woman alone, like myself, would not be able to bring up change unless there is support from the civil society, from the policymakers, from everybody around, so it has to be how shall I say, it has to be a holistic approach by everybody joining hands together.
Thank you very much, Mariam. I like what you say. It's also thinking about how to really build an ecosystem that is supportive, really, of women empowerment. So several of you have mentioned the point about digital trade, and I would also like to follow up on this question because I see that in many places, digital trade has opened up significant opportunities, including in countries where sometimes may be difficult for women to work outside of their home. We had a fantastic podcast here at the WTO, Let's Talk Trade, and heard a story of an entrepreneur from Pakistan and how the pandemic, moved her significantly to the digital economy and the advantages that this has opened up for women in Pakistan in this particular case. So any of you would like to comment on this topic?
Hi, Annabelle. Maybe I can make a comment. I can say on digitalization, I think, like I said earlier, it's high time women entrepreneurs got to learn on how to use the internet, how to run their websites. I think there is still need for more information and more training on how these women can actually run their own websites, even if it's in the comfort of their home. They can actually be able to run their online business and be able to work. So I feel there's still more capacity training that needs to be done on digitalization and how we can grab onto this opportunity as women to grow our businesses. Because I'm looking at it not only just the website, but it is another way of us interacting. We don't know when these restrictions are going to be cut off. So for now, we all depending on digitalization. So I think we should take also opportunities in starting to do trainings online. We just can't keep on waiting and see where things are going to go. I think it's high time we started doing these online trainings and engage the women. There are all these platforms that are going on. I think we really need to continue doing this so that the women do not lag behind.
Yeah. Annabelle, can I add also to that? One of the things that we need to do also is altering the regulatory environment to fit digital space. After all, existing regulations have largely been implemented for non-digital industries, and then so that may stifle digital entrepreneurship for women. So that is also something that can be done. Even WTO should do that, and then also provide universal, affordable, secure, and open broadband internet access to everybody, to all the women, so that they can improve their access to fund opportunities, clients, partners, and suppliers, and also embed digital entrepreneurship modules in entrepreneurship education to foster female digital literacy and help female students develop digital entrepreneurship skills. I think this is also something we can do, and which is doable, and also improve access to finance and resources for digital entrepreneurship and digitalization through innovative digital financing tools. And then also to combat the stereotype that digital entrepreneurs are young males by showcasing a wide range of role models and success stories in entrepreneurship campaigns and entrepreneurship education. I think this way, a lot of females entrepreneurs would be encouraged to come forward. And then also encourage STEM education, bring more women into that one, because after all, that is where they would learn, and that is where they would actually gain the not only the knowledge, but gain the confidence that that digital world is not just for men, but it is also for women to come into. So this kind of encouragement needs to be done, actually, basically, if we want women to take advantage of this opportunity that lies in front of us.
Thank you very much. So we have just a couple of minutes left, but I want to come back and ask each one of you in 1 or 2 words, if you were to choose one action that is effective in supporting women in international trade, what would that action be? And Lisa, let me start with you.
Well, I think we have had a lot of good ideas in the session already. But, my starting point is that I think we live in a world that is in several transformations at the same time. One relating to the digital challenge, one relating to the whole energy transformation, others relating to the sustainable development goals, gender equality. And I think my suggestions are political focus.
Very good.
On this particular issue.
Excellent. How about you, Rosa?
Yes, well, I would, there are a lot of things that we need to do, but we need first and foremost to enable women and men to share, caring and domestic responsibilities. That's, it's necessary, but it's not enough to ensure, women's participation in decision making on company boards, etc. We also need to pay attention to the public space, the schools, workplaces, parliaments, parks, streets, the internet, everything, because if we have a hostile environment to women, we will never reach the most desired gender balance. So what I'm trying to say is that we need structural solutions to a very structural embedded problem with its gender inequality. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would say also holistic approach in listening to
Yes.
you. Mercy, your words.
Okay, I would really love the WTO to really continue with market information. I think a lot of women need that. And then also, I think they really need to push and make sure that policies that are favorable to women entrepreneurs are really put up in place in most governments. And I can say that here in Africa, we've recently launched the Africa Continental Freedom Trade Area. So I'm hoping that WHO is really looking at this and make sure that women entrepreneurs really benefit from this trade agreement that has been signed. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Implementation of trade agreements. Mariam, you're our final panelist now.
Yeah, I think I have said most of what I would like to say over here, but then I think with 60% of the global GDP set to be digitized by 2022, the absence of women, I feel women entrepreneurs in the tech sector will lead to a digital world being designed for the 21st century without female leadership. So therefore, it is critical for women entrepreneurs to get on board now, because the world will belong to those who are digitally empowered. So governments, private sector, everybody should come together actually to create this opportunity for women. Thank you.
All right, let me conclude this panel first by celebrating each and every one of you for your achievements in your respective areas, and also by thanking you for a wonderful and very inspiring panel based on your real life experience in each of your respective areas. I think we have learned a lot about what is it that we need to do to support women in international trade as a force for economic recovery. So thank you very much for being here with us, and I wish you all the best. Thanks also to all of you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabelle. Lovely meeting all the panelists over here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.